Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call a meeting to order in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Tara, would you take roll call, please?
Sure. Bob Puskis,
Here.
Kathy Blooming,
Here.
Al Pachalik. I don't see him on yet. Oh, no, I see him. There you
Here
are.
I am.
How are you?
Okay.
Good.
We have
okay,
this thing every
so we
time we sign up.
Oh, that's okay. We got Al here. Okay, Michael Piakis,
Here.
Rick Johnson.
Mute here.
I see you. And we have Council Member Potasnik. Is that the correct way to spell your name?
Got it. Thank you. Good to be
Ah,
here, guys.
okay, good. Good.
Welcome.
I guess while we're here, Bob, I'll just say, so Council Member Potasnik is here and he's our new council liaison.
Welcome aboard, Councilman.
Good to see
Yes,
you.
welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Excellent. Did you have any questions? Or you want to just kind of go through the meeting and see how you do, or do you want any background, or? I guess why don't everyone introduce themselves to the councilman since he's here and he's new. I'm Tara Kenyon. I'm the land preservation and management consultant for the township. So go ahead, Bob.
Bob Puskis, South Middle Bush Road Dairy Farm, and chair of this committee at present, and then also chair and president of the Open Space Committee. Albert?
Kathy Blooming, Wallgas Tree Farm in Apiary on Bennett's Lane.
Okay.
Albert Pachalik, 15 Old Elite Road in the south end of Franklin.
Okay, great.
Michael Pikus, and I live on Coppermine Road, Ward 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick Johnson, co-owner with my wife of Four Barns Farm on Route 518.
Great.
Hi,
Awesome.
I'm over on Canal Road in Bunker Hill.
Thank you. Oh, good. Well, we're glad to have you. All right. So, Bob, I guess if you want to proceed, then, we can just go through the meeting. And if you have any questions during it or, just feel free to, ask.
We're a loose group. Jump in anytime you want, Councilman.
No problem.
I switched up the agenda a little bit, Tara. I think protocol would be that we do reorg next. Instead,
Yep.
we had it down the list. So you could, I turn that over to you to do.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to start off by taking nominations for chairperson of the Ag Advisory Committee for 2022.
I nominate Bob.
Okay.
Bob, you interested? Bob, do you accept that?
I'll accept it.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Is there any other nominations for chairperson? Okay, so hearing none, I guess we'll close the nominations for chairperson. And do we need another motion to approve the chairperson? This is where I always get confused.
I don't.
But
I
no,
think-
you don't need- you can just close them and then vote.
And then vote. Okay, great. Okay, so we're closing the nominations then. So all voting aye for chairman for Bob Puskis.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, or any voting nay? Any abstention?
I abstain.
He abstains.
Ah,
Okay, all right, Bob, you're in. Congratulations.
See, thanks.
All right, you're back in charge.
Okay. Now I'll open the nominations for vice chair.
Kathy will stay vice chair.
Vice chair, come on.
No, Rick, I just heard Rick. What'd you say, Rick? I'm sorry.
Kathy, you want vice again?
yeah, I worked so hard last year. So
Well, I don't want to force you into anything.
no, that's all right.
All right. I nominate Kathy Blooming.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, we close the nomination for vice chair. All in favor of Kathy as vice chair, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm
Abstained?
abstaining.
Okay. Very good. Now, next on in that light is, I guess, I will call it secretary, recording secretary. In the past couple, the past Tara has been doing it. It's really not a nomination. I guess she's willing to do it. I guess we basically have to ask her, Terry, willing to do it again?
Yeah, I don't mind doing it. That's no problem.
Okay. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll have Tara be the so-called secretary.
Sounds great.
Unless somebody wants to chat, unless somebody else really wants to do it.
I don't mind doing it. Yeah,
Hearing nobody jumping in. So, all right, Tara, thank you very much.
no problem.
All right, moving along, we'll open the meeting for public comment. Do you have anybody on for public?
Let me just double check here. No, the only member in the public right now is just Kathy because she's just on the phone.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Motion to approve the December 2nd meeting minutes. I hope everybody looked at them, and if there's any corrections, additions, bring them up now. If not, a motion to approve.
I approve.
You have a second?
I second.
All in favor is aye.
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 Okay.
All right, very good. Moving on. New business. First up, the goals and potential projects for 2022. You want to lead us in that, Tara?
Sure. So I just wanted to put this on the agenda. I mean, we can, of course, think about this more as we go through the year, but I figured it might be a good time to, if anyone had any specific goals or projects that they wanted to kind of really focus on this year, then, I thought it would be a good time to discuss that. And again, if something doesn't get mentioned now, it doesn't mean we can't work on it. It's just kind of starting us off on on that direction.
Right, yep. Sounds like anybody want to comment on that or come up with anybody got any ideas, or you want to ponder on all this? And we can just say, like Tara said, we can start stuff anytime we want. Basically, there's no set time frame on this.
One of
Yeah.
the questions I have is, you have your 42 targeted properties.
Mm-hmm.
How does it, if one of the board members feels that there's a good opportunity to bring up, how does it get added to that? Or it doesn't necessarily get added, it just is part of a meeting discussion?
So for the targeted farms list, there's a criteria that is established by the State Ag Development Committee, and it's based on soils and tillability. So in order to be on that list, a farm has to meet the criteria of 50% or more quality soil and 50% or more tillable. So the target farm list, the way we first are preparing it is we put those data layers into the mapping system, and we get a big list of the properties that meet that minimum criteria. So if those are not on the list, that means that they basically probably don't meet that initial criteria right away. It doesn't prohibit the farm from being preserved if they're not on the target farm list. However, we couldn't submit it for cost share to the SADC, and that's where those targeted farm list is going. So basically that's a long answer to the question, which is if there's a farm the committee member feels is important to look at for preservation, we should definitely talk about it and see if it's something that's worth pursuing.
So the criteria that was used to create the 42 farms is kind of computer driven. It has to, soil types are documented and et cetera, but it doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, right?
Well, the soil
There could be
data,
farms
it's
out
pretty
there.
accurate. I mean, well, I should say this, in terms of soil data, yes, it's accurate because it comes from the state soil survey, which was just recently updated. In terms of tillability, it fluctuates because one year, tillability can change a lot. Actually, overnight, tillability can even change a lot if someone, cuts some things down or removes some shrubbery. So it's kind of like a guiding document, but it doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. So if
Right.
there's a farm that's not on there, but you think is worth looking into, you should bring it, definitely to the committee and we can discuss it.
Okay, got it.
All right.
That's,
well,
I just wanted to say real quick, that's one of my goals for the year is I'd like to try and, I mean, I really, of course, like everyone thought that going out in person and stuff would be on by now, but we're still kind of in a holding pattern. However, that being said, either later in the year or virtually or something, I would like to make an effort to reach out to one of the larger targeted farm properties to see if we can get them interested or, looking into preservation in some kind of way.
right. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Like I say, there's no farm that, if any committee member sees a piece of property, because it may not, might not make that target list because it's not at 50% tillable. Maybe it's 40% tillable. So, and until, like Tara said, it could be, that could change and get it up to snuff, or hey, we could preserve farms with our own money. We don't need to actually cost share. Just cost share is nice because it saves us money, but we could do these farms on our own if we had to.
Right. Absolutely.
We're not gonna look at, any farm that's farmland assessed that want to look at the program. We're not gonna turn them down because they're 5 acres or 8 acres or, whatever size. If they're farmland assessed, we'll entertain it and look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely more difficult when you can't go and like to someone's home or property and talk to them and kind of explain to them. That makes it more difficult to get people interested, I think. But we have to like kind of figure out a way to do that virtually or something because like, we gotta try and reach out to one of the larger property owners. So I'll put that on my list of goals, but I think that's important.
Right, right. And that kind of went in hand with the next thing is the letters to targeted farms. So like I say, we can figure it out. Letters are fine, but most people just, it's a starting point. But a letter stating we'd like to meet with you or come out and meet with us or for coffee and donuts one night at a meeting or something like that. It's probably a better selling point than just sending a random letter. People see something come from the town and get nervous.
Yeah. So in terms of that next item, which it does kind of dovetail in, so Michael had sent me an email and said, he thought it would be a good idea to send some of the letters to the targeted farm owners, and he sent me some language, which was great, which is simple, and it basically says, that, I'm who I am, that I work with the Ag Advisory Committee. We're looking to preserve properties. You're receiving this letter because your property fits our goals. And then the language in here, which is good, is I'm planning an in-person meeting for February or March to outline the program. If you're interested in attending, let me know. Now, this is very good language, and we've talked about doing this in the past, Michael, right before you came on. But the problem is with COVID, all the township meetings are virtual until the end of March. So if we're going to do something in person at this point, it at least has to be after March 31st. And we don't know what's going to happen after that. It really depends on kind of what goes on with the pandemic. So maybe we shoot for April or May, and if it looks like it's not getting any better, maybe we try and do it on WebEx.
Right, that's not a bad idea. I say we could just hold off to see what it, hopefully this is over by March, and if it's not, well, we can maybe push it to the middle summer or see come March, the town will either open up or turn around and set another target date of when they can open up. So we got to play that a little bit by ear. I love the language though. I think it's a great letter to start and a letter to send out. So thank you for that, Michael.
You're welcome. What's so special though that it has to be at the township building? For example, why couldn't you rent a room at that restaurant in Middlebush? I can't think of its name, and invite people there.
We can't host any township sponsored meetings or anything like that in person. That's the township policy until March 31st. Or through March 31st right now at this point, I should say.
Right, right.
So
all right, we'll put that, Terry, just put this back on next month's agenda. We'll just keep watching it and seeing where it goes. Maybe by next month's meeting, we'll hear something with, something might break as far as the pandemic goes, and we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's good language to start with and a good goal, so.
Yep, very good. All right, before we go into old business, I got something I just jotted on the new business list here, tonight, sitting here looking at this. I don't know how many people might be aware of it, but here in the end of this, sometime this late fall, December, I forget when the time frame was, the state had put out state-owned fish and wildlife ground to lease for farm to bid on for farmers across the state. There was pretty much statewide that fish and game ground came up for bid, and the farmers bid it. And they got contracts. And the end of this Christmas week, State House Commission, this is after it was all bid and everybody, wondered bids. The State House Commission came out and says, well, now we don't want folks to use any neocides on the property or any glyphosate products on the property. And gave the winning bidders a 1 week to sign an agreement to that during Christmas week. So it was a big contention with State Board of Ag and Department of Ag and stuff. So they wound up getting an extension to that, having to sign that agreement till, I don't know if it was this past Monday or next Monday. But I don't know if anybody's going to sign it or not. It's a bad scenario because it changes what the ground value is, because it costs you a lot more money to, if you can't even find stuff, if you sure as heck can't find corn seed with no neocides on it. And so it's going to change a lot of the operations. What the big fear is that if they do this on this newly bid ground, what are they going to do on the rest of the state ground? And when those leases renew, are they going to stick that language into it? Or the other fear is that, once the state, if nobody stops them, so to speak, then it might snowball. And it's going to snowball to where maybe the county's going to look at that and say, hey, look, the state's doing it, we better do it too. And then maybe the towns will do the same thing. And then private landowners go, oh, the state thinks that's no good, maybe we shouldn't do it either. We shouldn't allow that on our property either. So it is a total mess. And they're trying to find out exactly who brought this up and how it got, why it came out of the State House Commission. I know Senator Smith, he sits on it, and that I think somebody said that he was maybe the one behind this, but we're not sure. And the other they kind of coincide with that. There was one that came up, basically glyphosate Roundup that you can use as a burn down in your no-till operations. And there's another product out there called, and you've seen on TV now, Gramoxone. And Senator Booker's got a federal bill in to outlaw Gramoxone in the whole country. So they're trying to toolbox tools that it's been used for years and years on farms throughout the country. And they're trying to pluck these tools out of our toolbox. So I'll keep you posted if I hear you. We'll keep your eyes and ears open for happening. Down the road we might need to maybe have a resolution written up to go over to open space to recommend our council to come out against this, type thing. So it's in the works right now as it's happening, and the Department of Ag is trying to. They claim they got blindsided, and so did DEP claim they got blindsided by this. So it's a work in kind of progress. I haven't heard this week what's actually how much forward anybody got to get to the bottom of this whole problem, but it could be a big nightmare for agriculture in the state of New Jersey.
Jeez, okay. Yeah.
So.
All right.
All right. So just everybody keep their, like I say, it could snowball into being, it makes some of the ground basically worth it changes your farming operation totally. It costs you more money to, if you're a no-till conservation farmer, you might have to go, if they succeed in this, you might have to go back to doing full tillage, which kind of goes against NRCS, standards, and that they like to see this highly erodible ground no-tilled instead of, plowed, and it leads it to more erosion, wind erosion, soil erosion. It's just a big nightmare.
Yeah,
I can go on and on and on about it, so I don't want to take too much more of your time up, but just, I'll keep you all posted on what's happening as much as I can from what I find out.
thank
So-
you.
And moving on, to old business, submittal of the annual pig grant application. We did that, Tara?
The annual pig grant, so Councilman Potasnik, just so you know, the pig grant means planning incentive grant, and it's just the acronym just happens to be pig grant. So basically what it is every year we have to submit an annual application to the State Ag Development Committee, and it lists our targeted farms and our committee members we have to prove we've been actively meeting. And once we send that in, we get access to up to $500,000 of cost share funding from the state for land preservation for farms specifically. So it's due every year, December 15th. So yes, it was submitted and the council signed off on the resolution. So it's been submitted and accepted by the state. So
All right, great.
good to go.
Great. Okay, next thing, update on the stewardship of the grasslands for the committee, Tara.
Yeah, so so as a background again, one of the stewardship mechanisms that we use now fairly recently is the prescribed burn for our grasslands. So last year was the first time we did a prescribed burn. If we follow the requirements of the Prescribed Burn Act that was signed in 2018, the service is performed by the New Jersey Fire Safety Service for us. They do all the planning, the prep work, the actual burning, the cleanup, the noticing, they do everything, and it's totally free for municipalities that submit an application, which is great. So we only did it last year at the John Clyde Memorial Preserve just to kind of see how it worked because we never did it before. Everyone really liked it. They did a very professional, great job. So we have our application in and approved to do burning at both sites this year. At certain fields that have been recommended by the Audubon. So the burning season is from beginning of January through the end of April. So it's very weather dependent. The last time they did a burn, they were able to give us a little over a day and a half of notice because it really depends on wind speed, humidity. So they haven't been able to do any burning yet. But as soon as I get notice, we will put out an alert on Nixle like we always do. We have a prescribed burn web page on our website. And we also have signage up at both sites. The prep work has been done at both sites by the Fire Safety Service, which is basically digging, I think they're called trenches, which is where the burn stops. They had to mow some areas. They had to bring like their trucks in and put some gravel down, I think, on one of the driveways to stabilize. So that's been done. That's the prescribed burn. The herbicide application, we're still in talks with at the Open Space Advisory Committee. In December, the Trails Advisory Committee prepared a resolution and submitted it to the Open Space Advisory Committee, basically saying that the herbicide application as recommended by the Audubon should be followed and that, we should incur those costs to pay for the equipment that's needed, the herbicide, and the application of it. So we did discuss it at the last open space meeting, and basically what came out of it is that the committee wants me to get some kind of informal quotes at this point to kind of get a grasp as to how much it could potentially be. So we're working on that. Bob had given some estimates for a mower that we need in order to properly mow the grasslands, and I understand that that's been put in the budget, so that's good news. So DPW will have the mower they need. We already do have the tractor. And yeah, so we're working on looking at the cost and the associated fees for herbicide application, but everything else is proceeding.
And you said that is free, the burning?
The burn is free for municipalities that go through the application process with the New Jersey Fire Safety Service. So we follow that to the T, and so we have it done for free.
They put the gravel down and stuff for free too?
They do only really under the spots where they need, so they won't do the whole area. But for example, last year when they went to John Clyde Memorial Preserve, they did a lot of work on the driveway area because they have these big trucks that come in.
Yeah, that was
But it was interesting. Yeah, Bob was there too, and it was very interesting because they have, safety people on site. They have a whole brigade of firefighters, and they let us, kind of learn about how they do it. It's just so interesting and it's amazing. It's a really, really cool process.
And then we
Hey,
get the
is that
results.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, I was
Kath.
going to say, the burn season is till the end of April?
The burn season for this burn is until the end of April. Yes.
Okay. I usually thought it was a lot, it was like, they cut it off earlier in April, but okay.
So this year, my understanding is they're going to keep it open until the end of April. I believe it's probably because of how many applications they received. But last year, they burned 2 times, and the last burn was done by I think it was April 4th or 5th, something like that.
Yeah. Because that's usually, as I recall, when things change, but because otherwise the conditions are less likely to be right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
you're right. Yep. I mean, it probably won't go that late. Maybe they just give a little extra buffer because since that prescribed burn act passed, they've gotten a lot more applications.
Okay.
Yeah, I contacted the fire service. Was interested in doing some prescribed burns on some of my farm fields. And for this burn season, the application deadline is like October the 1st or some October, whatever date it is. And we were past that. But if I didn't follow up too far, the application fee for a private entity is $250.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if that's one permit that if I want to do multiple fields, if that's one permit, or I got to get $250 for each. If I do different tracks, if it's $250 for each track. I didn't get it that much into it, but hopefully I remember to apply next July and August. So I wouldn't mind trying to burn some of these fields to help with some weed control.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great tool, and especially, I mean, for private landowners, there's the fee, but for municipalities, it's a huge cost savings, and it seems to be working. I mean, for our grasslands, it's going to take a few times of burning to really knock back the invasive. So we'll see after this second burn at John Clyde Memorial how it goes. But it's been so far so good.
Yeah, when they decide to do it, if you can, maybe Tara, when you get the notice, maybe you can send the committee members a quick email or text or something to let them know when it is, because I want to go back and I want to watch Negri Podi up there when they do that one, because it's right here in the backyard. But everybody should. It's pretty neat to watch them how they do this.
Yeah.
It's just not going out and throwing a match in the thing and starting a fire. They're pretty intense and pretty safety conscious and pretty
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, I will. I'll let everyone know as soon as I find out.
All right.
Commercial.
Anybody? We're done with, as far as I know, with old business. Tara, unless you have something else.
No, nothing else.
Al, I got a question for you. At the last meeting, you talked about that property you and I had been to one time years ago. Did you make any contact with those landowners?
I didn't, the only one I contacted was Gary Forsythe, who has kind of met them and he was gonna bring me over there. But with all this stuff going on with COVID, I don't
Yeah.
think they were too interested yet.
All right. All right.
But I haven't
Yeah.
forgot. I really like to see them
Well,
also.
it's a beautiful, you go back up the road, you get into this beautiful, it's a beautiful farm. When you get back, you don't know it's even there until you get up the driveway. It's a pretty unique piece of property. It'd be a big win for us to preserve that one, just because the aesthetics of the farm are just great.
Yeah, it'd be like, if they're interested in getting a little bit of money, there's no way a developer is gonna be able to get back there to do any work. Because they just really have that one lane that drive between 2 pieces of property.
Yeah, that all depends, Albert, how wide that lane, how much the right of way is. If it's, it goes, if it's the right width, they can get away with doing something up in there. But it's just a great piece of property. It's just really impressive.
Yeah, no, I think I'll get in there sooner or later.
Okay.
Sooner than later.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up under even going back to new business or old business that they want to discuss? If not, Tara, do we need to go into executive session?
No executive session this time.
Okay. Next on the agenda, that would be adjournment. But before we do that, Councilman, would you have any questions or comments?
I mean, this was one of the committees I'm really most interested in sitting on, and I'm excited to see kind of what has been happening in the really in a rush to learn everything at once. So I'm not going to say tell me everything, but if there's some materials you want me to read or things that would be useful, I'm happy to look at that. And I'll attend open space as well. So my one question is, sort of how does open space work with ag? Because I hear you guys talking about potential landowners who would want to preserve things, which is an open space issue, but it's agricultural land, so it makes sense. And it seems like a good teamwork, particularly with Bob crossing over in both. So that totally makes sense to me. And then just the other sort of thought is, I didn't say it when I first did the introduction, but I chair something called Keep It Green, which is a coalition of organizations that worked on the 2014 ballot question that set aside a portion of the corporate business tax to preserve farmlands, forests, and parks. And before that, we did the bond measures. And so that whole campaign in 2014 was something I was really intimately involved with. And, open space preservation is a big part of my day job. I'm executive director at New Jersey League of Conservation Voters. And so, sometimes we do things in the policy world or we get funding and then how does it work on the ground? And so if there's ever anything that's like a hiccup, it feels like a conflict. I do have that foot in the other area that could be helpful. But I mean, really, it's nice to see that money, sort of universally supported and, and going to projects here in our hometown. So we're in a race against the bulldozers, so it's hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great campaign. I remember that when when that corporate business tax was on for approval, because it's like when you work in the field, it's like not having that steady source of funding was always so stressful. So yeah, I remember that. That's really good. No, great. Just to real quick answer your question about the open space committee. So Ag Advisory, they'll hear all of the potential farmland preservation projects.
Okay.
But then after it's approved, in order to get it appraised, for example, OSAC will get a presentation about it. It has to be approved by the land use committee of the township committee, and then we can appraise it when we make an offer, the same process. So Ag will first see it and present a potential offer, which has to be recommended again by OSAC, but approved by the council. So there's always these checks to make sure, but everything for farmland goes to Ag first.
Perfect.
Yep.
Look forward to it and seeing people in person.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know that'll be nice, right?
Oh, all right. If there's no other comments, questions, or business to be had, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Who made the motion? I really can't.
I know Kathy said second, but I think she was first.
I second.
Okay, and then
All right.
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All
Opposed?
right.
All right,
Thank you,
guys. Thank you very much
everybody.
for coming out tonight. Hopefully someday we'll meet in person again, and it'd be nice to meet you, Councilman, in person also. If you ever have any ag questions, reach out to any one of the committees or myself or whatever. Hey, if you see some ground around you think needs to be preserved, jump right in, whether it's brother, we'll entertain anything you want to bring to us too.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, everyone, we'll have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.